Welcome to Must Be Nice. I really, really happy to have you on the show. And I was, extremely excited just because, man, you're kind of a blue collar millionaire, so to speak. I mean, you're definitely killing it. And I was really curious, who are you and what's your business now?
Cool. Yeah. Well, I started in dirt. My name is Ryan Lanser, owner of Affordable Site Model, Skydirt drone topography services company as well. I started on the ground. I started on a shovel labor when I was 15 and just worked my way up to, operating a Bobcat. The Bobcat guy didn't show up one day. My boss was like, hey, get in that Bobcat. I learned that. And then from there, scraper loaders, tractors, whatever, and just a lot of labor work. And then I got hired on another company to also do labor operating, and then ended up running multiple jobs, running multiple crews. And I got promoted to that. In that company, I got promoted to operations manager at the age of 25. And that was pre-housing collapse. So then the housing collapse came, and it was all 100% residential excavation. So it just decimated the whole company overnight. And so I was like, well, I always wanted to do. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 15. I've started this ASM is my 20th business. So I've had 19 failures, but all the while I was in dirt and excavation and construction and trying to start all these side hustles, flipping houses, and I own a lawn service company, a lawn service business. I own a tattoo shop. The list is so long I can't even remember half of them, but I just learned lots of things every step of the way and failed a lot. And finally I was like, I've been in dirt for 20 plus years. I know the ins and outs of everything about it. Why don't I do something with what I actually know? And when I started ASM, I told my wife, like, this is just a stepping stone. This is not the big business. This is just the business before the big business. And she's like, I don't know, you might be onto something. And it's been a grind, it's not easy. No business is easy. You take 3 steps forward, you take 2 steps back. You get 3 employees, you go back to 0. You get 2 or 3 employees, you go back to 0. And you learn how to manage, you learn how to hire, you learn how to lead. And it takes a long time to learn all that. So I've been doing it about 14 years now, and we're going on 14 years. And first 5 years were rough, and then we started getting momentum, word of mouth momentum. I went all in on social media marketing, learned a lot about Google Ads and LinkedIn, and just kept grinding, and finally built up momentum where I have a full team that have been with me 6-7 years, core group of people, and finally really getting to the spot where I wanted to be 10 years ago. It takes a lot longer than people think.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Congratulations, Ryan.
Yeah.
So, all right, you've been a business owner now for basically 14 years, right?
Yep. This business, yeah.
And then before that, you did at some point where you were clocking in somewhere, right? You were an estimator. What's your life like as far as when you were working for someone else, right? Your fruit of your labor does tend to go towards your hierarchy, right? Your owners versus working on your own now, and you get to enjoy the fruits of your own labor.
Yeah. I realized about a decade ago, I had the talent in excavation to make the owner that I was working for a lot of money. And I did that over and over and over and over. And I was like, well, if I can do this for him, why can't I do this for myself? And it kind of light bulb moment of like, it was his name, his business, and he had grown it, but I was going out making the new contacts. I was doing the groundwork, and I was making him a lot of money. And I started realizing if I apply that same principle to my own business, then and see what happens, I could probably make it happen just the same for myself. And that was when I kind of made the shift to go out on my own. Yeah.
And so, all right, was there maybe a straw on the camel's back, so to speak? Was there maybe a specific project or moment? Because I mean, shoot, you had a career there. You've been there for a while. I mean, was this always just something in your heart that what got it out?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a great, employee and a loyal employee, and worked hard and pride myself on that. But I also always had this entrepreneurial bug that just never went away. I always had to be working on something for myself in my own spare time, and so basically the thing that kind of pushed me out the door. One, I had a mentor. It was an older gentleman, the superintendent at the company I worked for, and we hit it off really well. And he taught me a lot. But he would call me every day. I started the business; it was growing a little bit, and he would call me every single day. Did you quit yet? Did you give your notice? And I'd have to tell him no. And then the next morning, hey, did you quit? And I'd have to tell him no. And I did that for 2 whole years. And he was just looking at me like, you have what it takes already. You need to go out on your own. Like, if you put all the effort you're putting into this company you work for into your own thing, there's no way it's not going to work, because I see what you do for the company, and you're building this business another 6-8 hours a day after your full-time job. Imagine if you could invest all of your time into that. It's going to work. And he would tell me that. And it was just fear. It's fear of that steady paycheck. It's fear of the benefits and the health insurance and all that. It's fear of letting all that go, the paycheck every week. And so it was a scary move. It was like, I wanted success so bad, but when it finally came, I was afraid of it. I was afraid of, what am I missing here? What am I not gonna? What's gonna come out of left field that I don't see?
Yeah. And the opposite of fear is, right, like hope and faith, right? What gave you hope and faith?
So definitely just doing it over time and picking up and having a few employees while working my 40, 60 hours a week. I had opened up an office. I got to 3 guys. They were working full time. Revenue was coming in. I was making more than my salary at the job. And so and then I was kind of set. I was in a good spot at this company because the owner was going into his 70s. He's getting ready to retire. His son was kind of set to take over, but needed help. I was kind of higher up in the office staff, and really kind of my long-term plan was to probably, and he had talked about buying in a percentage and owning part of the company, maybe with his son. And so I had a really good long-term plan at that company. And then I was sitting in the office one day working on an estimate, and the owner's son was out on an excavator out in the yard demoing and breaking up some concrete. And he came in my office, and there was a couch in there, and he was like, hey, I'm going to lay down. I have a headache. My vision's kind of blurry. And he was in his mid-30s. And so he lay down for an hour, got up. He's like, I feel better. He went back out, worked, about a week later. He comes in again, a little bit longer that time. And then he literally went in to the doctor because he kept having headaches, and they diagnosed him with a inoperable brain tumor, and he was gone in 6 months. So, and that was right in the midst of, I had just built momentum. I had 3 employees already. My mentor was calling me every day. You need to quit. You need to quit. Have you quit yet? Have you quit yet? And that was kind of a wake up call to me of like, I have this big plan in the future, but you don't know that the future is going to be there. You don't, that's what drove me and gave me the faith to step out and just take it all on, because I wanted to do more for my kids, put them through college. And that kind of was my wake up moment pretty much.
Wow. And I kind of looking at your background, I know you seem like you might be in your early 30s. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I am 42.
42? Oh, man. Dang,
Yep.
man. So you didn't go right out of high school into into the education or anything like that, like the traditional route we see nowadays, right?
Nope.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about, what all of this education, the formal education versus the education that led up to where you're at right now? I mean,
Yeah.
do you regret it at all?
I mean, personally, I don't think that it. I think for me personally, where I worked in the zone in the valley I was in, it wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't really help me that much. I think there are other geographical areas where it can help you get into a position that you could learn from. But I had so much field and industry knowledge already at that point that nobody really cared about the education side of it. They just tell us what you can do, come in and do what you say you're going to do. And that was pretty much the gist of it. And I've worked with lots of right out of school degrees, and they're starting at square one at age of 20, 23, 24, 22. And now they're hitting the ground learning construction. I was doing it since I was 15. So I already got a 7-8 year field knowledge, industry knowledge experience on them. And so I feel like there are some situations where it's good. I feel like there's some situations where it sets you back. It depends on your path and a lot on geographical area and companies and how they're structured. And do you want to go work for a big company? Do you want to work for a small mom and pop company? There's lots of different angles to it. I'm not anti-education, but you just can't beat the field experience knowledge. I mean, in this industry.
And so, all right, you were working at your other job, right? And then you created this business while you were having your full-time job.
Yes.
And I know from looking at your LinkedIn, you're a good salesman, right? You're able to find some jobs and then work on them, right? How did you go about finding that first self-employed opportunity?
Yeah. So when I started ASM, the first year, I had a very local mindset from working for local companies. I had just a very localized mindset. I thought, okay, I can help service all the excavation companies in my city and my county, maybe the next city over. And so I actually started an email marketing campaign program, and I went and got all their emails off their websites, called them, got their emails for the estimators, project managers, and I started building a list, email marketing list. And I'd say, I had maybe 50, 60 emails on it the first year. And the first year, I think I did about 12 jobs, maybe one a month is about how the first year went. So it was very slow, but I was working a lot in my day job. So I was good with that. And then I made it a point to add 5 emails every single day, no matter what, before my head hit the pillow, to my email marketing list. I would add 5 emails. So I would search local excavation companies, drum down, find their emails, add them to the list, and I'd send out a once a month email marketing. So that's the initial start of the whole thing.
And which tool did you use? Were you using, MailChimp, Go High Level?
So it was eye contact, actually. It was this is 14 years ago. So I don't think MailChimp might have been a thing, but eye contact was like one of the top 2, I think. So I went with that one because it was cheaper. It was cheaper, and I was tight on money and just trying to get things going.
That's awesome, man. That's really smart. And also, It sounds like you created this process really early on, right? Instead of a lot of business owners, they kind of they're flying by the seat of their pants, right? This was a process. This was well intended. Where did you learn to do that? Where did your current company doing that?
No, not at all. So I learned from the previous 19 failures of other businesses. So people will say they want to start a business. So they make business cards, they go start their website, maybe they go get an LLC, but they don't actually have people that'll pay them for their product yet. So it's kind of backwards. And I did my first 18, 19 businesses the same way. Big ideas, business plan, all this stuff. But I didn't focus on, okay, how am I going to actually find people that need the service that want to pay me for the service? That's literally all business is. You offer a product or service that people are willing to pay you for. If you don't have that, you don't have a business. So in this business for ASM, I went about a completely different way. I said, I'm going to focus on finding the people that want to pay for this product or service. When it builds into something, then I'll go get my LLC, then I'll start my website, then I'll worry about business cards, then I'll start saying, okay, I have a business. But I kind of really looked at it like I don't have a business until I have people that are willing to pay me for this service. So I focused all in on that. And I didn't really get that from any company I was working for, anything like that. It's just trial and error and failure of the first 19 businesses.
Wow. And out of these 19 businesses, what was the most educational experience from them all?
I definitely took a nugget from each one, but one that kind of sticks out of my mind, I opened a tattoo shop in the late 90s. And kind of when tattoos were a big thing, and it was all over TV, and there was like, Hart and Huntington and all those shows. There were tattoos was kind of
NY Inc., LA Inc.,
all that. Yeah, so it was big. There was hype about it, and there wasn't any good tattoo shops in the city that I lived in, Tulare. So again, I was a project superintendent, foreman, estimator, working all day. I leased a building. I went and remodeled it, nights and weekends, took a couple months, invested about 60 grand into it, opened it up. I found some artists from LA to come. I found some local artists to come, hired them, got it going, had a really good, start to it and everything. But the biggest lesson from that was, don't start a business that you can't do every aspect of in and out. So I couldn't perform tattoos. I didn't know the first thing about it. So I had to rely on the artists, I didn't know how to run a tattoo shop. I had never been in a tattoo shop to run it before, or had never owned one before, didn't know anything about it. So to invest that 60 grand in something I didn't know, and to rely on people to do the jobs that I couldn't do, it taught me, like, if you're going to go all in on something, go all in on something that top to bottom, and you can perform every level of it yourself if you need to.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. And so, okay, you ran this campaign, you found a customer, right? So how did Affordable Site Model go from customer to a team? I mean, did you have the team already in your back pocket? Were you working on that first customer yourself and then you needed a team?
So the first 4 to 5 years, the first 5 to 7 years was all me. Like, all me, days and nights, weekends, overnights. I mean, it was to an unhealthy level, honestly. I'd sleep 3-4 hours a day because I'd work my day job, and then I'd start my 8 to 12 hour day on my business when I got home. And even though I worked at home, I had 2 kids and a wife, and I was present, but I wasn't present because I was always working on a project, literally doing every bit of it myself, doing the billing myself, doing the follow-up on myself, doing the marketing myself. And then, I started looking at high school or college grads from Fresno State nearby, found a guy with some experience, trained him, got another guy, trained him on doing the actual data entry of what we do. So I could focus on the other stuff. And I still had to review, do quality control, and to keep up schedule. I still had to do a lot of the data entry myself. It just started helping take a little bit of the load off. But it just built over time and the hardest thing about anything business wise, I think, is, for me personally, is letting go of that control, letting somebody else do what you do so well. And maybe they can do 80-90% as good as you, but being okay with that 80-90%, because they're not going to it's not their business. They're not going to put the effort into it that you put into it every day.
Yeah. And so, Ryan, you're the head honcho of a team, man, and you guys are killing it. I mean, what's been your best year in business?
Yeah. So we're on track this year to have a really good year. The last year was a slight dip. The year before that, so 2022 was our best year so far.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. And so what's it like being a business owner, right? Now you're the head honcho. How do you be a business leader, right? How do you show up for your employees? How do you, create a team? How do you make people, for lack of words, care?
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely one of the most challenging things. It's honestly something I'm still working on. I just I have the lead by example approach. I'm willing to do anything in this business. I mean, I still dump all of the team's trash cans every other day just to show them, like, I'm not above taking your trash out. We're all on the same level. We're all on the team. So it's the small things. It's the lead by example. It's the, hey, I got to step in and get this done because we're busy, and they see that. And a lot of my team saw how hard I work. They get there in the morning. I'd been there all night. They leave at the end of the day, and I'm still there. And they'd come in sometimes the next morning, and I'd still be there in the same clothes because I didn't even go home. So just really leading by example is really worked for me.
Yeah. So you're running a $2 million revenue annual engineering business, right? Like, and you're self-employed, and you even have another business that the drone business is doing great too. Like,
Yep.
must be nice. What do you got to go on a vacation once a year? Are you driving a Corvette? Like, what's going on, Ryan?
So yeah, I definitely have my toys. I got two Harleys that I love. I like to go on long Harley rides, multi-state rides every year, at least one. I'm actually heading out Thursday to Colorado for 7 days to ride Harleys through Colorado. 10 years ago, I wrote down in my book goals. Some of them are materialistic goals, like I always wanted my dream truck, F-250 lifted, blah, 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 stuff like that. And when I moved, threw that book away in a box somewhere. And when I moved into this house, I was kind of pulling some stuff out, and I opened it up, and like everything on that goal list I have today. So, and honestly, after the housing collapse, I was homeless. We were living in a hotel with two kids, my wife, and a cat. Like, we lost everything in the housing collapse, and I had to build myself back up from zero, making $125,000 a year with company credit card, company truck, fuel card, insurance, all this stuff, and overnight to the best job I could get was $45,000 a year. So it was a struggle, and I think that struggle definitely builds character, and that sticks with me still today, of like that being that broke, being homeless, not having to pay for my hotel night by night, having to scrounge change to do it. I bought a $1,500 street bike that I rode to work, and it wouldn't charge. So I had to plug it in the hotel hallway and sneak the cord out, plug it in at night so it would charge so I could make it to work. By the time I made it to the hour commute, it would die as I was rolling into work. I'd have to plug it into the office charger to make it home because I couldn't afford the part to fix it. And I did that for 2 years. Finally got a salvage Dodge Neon for $2,000. The owner helped me find it, and drove that back and forth for 2 years. And I started listening to Tony Robbins CDs on the commute. And that's when kind of my mindset started changing. I was really in the like, poor me, I'm broke, I'm homeless, what am I going to do? I can't find a good job. And I was just stuck in that mode. And honestly, I spent $400 on the Tony Robbins CD set, and I didn't have $400. And I wore those CDs out, just driving to and from work. And some of it started sticking, started changing my mindset. And that was kind of the beginnings of building this.
Wow. Awesome, man. Congratulations. You went from struggling to thriving.
Yep. The thriving, struggling, thriving.
Yeah. And one of the things I feel like, everyone should have the mindset of is celebrating failure, right? Celebrating, the fact that you're trying and it didn't work out. And that's okay. It's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And with these 19 other businesses, right? What got you through that? Because a lot of people, they get stuck in this rut, right? Of oh, it didn't work out, I'm never going to try again. What got you to number 20 in it being successful? What made you try inventing each light bulb and getting to this light bulb?
Yeah, I just don't have give up in me. I just never gave up. I wanted to a lot. I probably gave up for a period of time after the housing collapse, but I knew this is what I wanted. I knew I was going to get there. I didn't know how to get there, but I knew if I kept trying, I'd eventually get there. And, and there's all these like get rich quick schemes and flipping houses and all this stuff. And there isn't anything easy. It takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of effort, a lot of time. And in the beginning, you put what you think is effort in for 3 months, a year, 6 months, and you're like, oh, it didn't work out. It didn't work out. And with ASM, I looked more long term. I knew it was going to be slow because I knew how long all the other stuff took to just even start to take off. And so I just treated it totally different. It was just totally different mindset going into it. Take it slow, let it organically grow itself, and don't force it. Don't force it.
Yeah. Ryan, one of the things I've been most impressed about having this podcast is a lot of the blue collar entrepreneurs, they're the ones that are making the most, man. They're the ones that are killing it. And if nowadays, not a lot of people want to go a traditional university route, nor should they, right?
Yeah.
For someone that wants to be a blue collar millionaire and go through the route that you're going through, what would you tell them? How can, if I'm sitting here, again, you were 16 or 15, 14 when you started this business or in
15
construction?
Or in construction, yeah, 15 and a half, yeah.
15. So let's say 15 and a half, Ryan, I'm right here. And I'm saying, hey, I want to be in your shoes a couple of years from now. How do I
Yeah.
get there? What's the route I should take?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to get in the door, offer help to do anything. You start at the bottom. You got to start at the bottom. Shoveling. I was digging trenches for a year, and I was literally the human trencher. The crew I was on had a mechanical trencher, and my job was to dig any trench that was too hard for the mechanical trencher to dig or to get to. Like solid rock through vines. But you learn. You start absorbing that knowledge, and you work your way up, and then there's levels to it. But you just got to start. You got to start at the bottom, and you got to be humble enough to know it's going to take some time. You're not going to be a foreman overnight. You're not going to be running the company overnight. I worked at places for 4 or 5 years without a raise and without a promotion, just to learn and absorb everything I could from everybody. And then I go to another company and learn a whole bunch more. That's another thing is, I think you can max out what you learn at companies because of their structure. And sometimes you can get kind of stuck in that position. So get to a point where you think you've obtained all the knowledge you can, and then move to a new company, because the things you learned can be so much drastically different, so much, just different. You can learn a lot more. I learned more. I jumped to an excavation company in Dallas for a year. I learned more in that year about excavation than I had learned in the previous 10 years at the little company I worked for, just because of sheer size and volume and responsibility.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And in 2024, right? I feel like we're in a day and age where everyone can easily create a business outside of work, between technology and accessibility that people are, and the fact that you can contact someone in the time zone where it's still daylight when it's dark for you, right? There's all sorts of ways to make it work, right?
Yeah.
Now, in construction, I don't know a lot of people that work in construction, and to your point, like how they were working very comfortable jobs, very comfortable lives, right?
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to be normal, right? To not, but at the same token, these people that they have it in their heart, they are in the comfortable lifestyle. What would you say to them? How do you go from, let's say, being even like a superintendent at a construction company to jumping out on your own? What would your advice be to some of those people?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're doing it to work less or have more freedom or more time, that's like the name of your podcast, Must Be Nice. I hear that all the time. I go on a trip to Jamaica in a beautiful overwater bungalow with my wife for our anniversary, and that's our one trip a year. But the rest of the time, I'm on day 24 straight of working 12-hour days. This is my first kind of slow day I've had in 24 days straight. It's a constant grind, and people kind of get into business thinking that you're just going to create this business and you're going to have all your time back and you're going to have all this money for all this stuff. And you might get to the money side, but the time side is a lot harder, because they kind of equate, they equate to each other. All the time is what earns the money. So if you don't put in the time, you're not going to earn the money.
Yeah. And Ryan, I know you said you're a father, right? Your two kids, they see that what you've been doing, they see, what you've been grinding at, and they see the lifestyle you live. Is this entrepreneurial spirit something that you recommend to them? Is there anything that you do to show them how it is, and perhaps, encourage them to do a similar or on their own type of venture?
Oh yeah. I've always been encouraging to them to do it. I've also, and my wife is luckily very into education, so they kind of get both sides. My daughter is just starting her second master's program to be a licensed LMFT, licensed marriage family therapist. She already finished her bachelor's. She already finished her first master's. She's starting her second master's. But not only that, she has several entrepreneurial things that she's doing right now that are making her a ton of income. She started a YouTube channel. She's at 200,000 followers. That's paying her so much. She's got all these brand deals from it. So just kind of the leading by example. I tried not to push anything on them, but they saw it and they learned and they asked questions and how's this work? How's that work? And over time, like, yeah, it's really cool. And my youngest is 18, getting ready to start her first bachelor's. So she's not really on the entrepreneurial journey yet, but my oldest definitely kind of started down that path.
Yeah. And Ryan, I believe that everyone should have a goal that it's so big that it scares them even, right? They're trying to achieve a goal. What is your big goal? Why are you doing all this? What's this big dream that's been in your heart?
Yeah. Honestly, I do want to grow ASM. One of the biggest things that I enjoy about it, I enjoy the day-to-day helping the clients. They're stuck, they're on a job, they got 6-7 dozers out there. And that call to me can get them rolling versus them having 2 or 3 days of downtime. That's a good feeling. And then also like that kind of drives me. And then also bringing in, we got some employees I got one employee right now. It's been with me 5 years. He was a security guard at a parking lot for a stadium, and he hated his job outside, hot in the summer here in Fresno, 105 plus degrees. And I like passing my knowledge down to the younger generation and showing them, hey, there's a career path for you in this industry that you weren't even aware of if you enjoy it and you put in the time and the effort to learn. And to see them grow, like to go in and see the growth in my team. And even if they leave, in the beginning, I used to get upset when an employee left, like, oh man, I just trained you and you left, whatever. But now I get happy. I'm happy because they can go on and better their life from what I've taught them. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. And so are you going to be working until you drop, man? Or are you planning on selling this company someday or passing it on to the girls?
I'll definitely be working till I die, but it may or may not be this. I do have a growth trajectory to sell this by age of 50, so in the next 8 years. Machine control technology is still early adoption. It's considered early adoption rate. Less than 50% of excavation contractors across the U.S. use the technology right now. And so the next 5 years is going to be, 70, 75, 80%. And the next 10 years is going to be probably 100%. So it's definitely on an upward trajectory right about the 8-year mark that I turn 50. So my plan is to sell it to a big, Caterpillar, Tiger, Caterpillar, Trimble, some big company, build a big team, build to where it runs itself without me, and then probably sell at 50 and then go do something else. I don't know what I'll do yet, but I'll do something else.
Yeah. And I read from one of your posts that the story of, where you found a big job at Starbucks, right, in line. Yeah. Has there any been like just like that one? You can speak on that one. Has there been like some crazy memorable interactions with customers?
Yeah, that one was definitely probably the biggest. And a lot of it was just because the timing, the deadline, the profit we made on it, the situation with the crew had just paved. The guys were all tired. The boss, was like happy it was done. And literally, I walked in Starbucks that morning to get my coffee. I heard a general contractor talking about, kind of upset, yelling on the phone, like, you guys got to get out there and pave. You got to get out there and pave. Like, we're going to get fined. I don't remember the fine. It was $10,000, $50,000 an hour. It was astronomical if they did not open this ramp. And it was a $180 million highway project for Caltrans, state of California. And we had everything aligned perfectly. I overheard the conversation. He hung up. Our paving crew had just finished a job the night before. We had all the equipment 10 miles up the road to do the job. I hit him up. I was like, hey, we were a Caltrans approved contractor. We had all our safety stuff. Everything was just lined up perfect. And I was like, hey, you need a paver. Like, I'll call my boss. We can get this done for you. And he's like, oh, yeah, right. 10,000 tons. We need it tonight. We have 48 hours. He's thinking we're some mom and pop paving company. At the time, the company was doing about 80 million a year. It was a good size company. And so I called my boss. I was like, do you want to entertain this idea? They need a pave tonight, 48 hours. I think we can pretty much name our price because they have to do it. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So I left Starbucks, drove over to the highway, pulled over, did some measuring, checked it out. ran to the office, worked up my quote, fired it off. And hour later, we had a contract, and they're like, yeah, be out there at midnight. So my boss went to work, setting everything up, getting the crew set up. And he actually ran that job himself that night, which was pretty cool. And profit was just right under $1 million in 48 hours. And that was probably the coolest feeling, that it just happened to stumble onto the conversation, a contact that we had never had. And that contact went on to give us a bunch more work also, because they do a ton of highway work.
That's awesome, brother. That's killer. That's killer.
Yeah.
And speaking about $1 million opportunities, right? You've been, you right now, you're a human capital is insane, right? You could on the fly of a hat, 08 happens again tomorrow. You'll be rich again, no problem.
Yeah.
If I dropped you off in the middle of, let's say, Pueblo, Colorado, like my favorite show, Undercover Billionaire, and I gave you $100, a truck, and a cell phone with a new contact list, right? Contacts you don't know.
Yeah.
What would you do in a relatively short amount of time to create a business that's worth a lot, or you yourself earn a large amount of income?
Yeah, 1,000%. I would go start finding jobs. I'd start small, parking lots, houses. I'd look for people that needed paving, grading done. I'd hire local subs that have all the equipment. I'd mark it up 10, 15%. And I do quick turnaround jobs, 2-3 days a week, get them billed, pay the sub, make the 15%, do that over and over, maybe have multiple going on the first week, different subs. I have no doubt with the knowledge and experience the last few years, and even my wife's like, man, if ASM ever failed, I have no worries now. Like, you have all the experience to go and just start over and build something, all the ins and outs of it. And yeah, I feel like it would be easy. It's totally doable.
That's awesome. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. So let me ask you this: if someone wanted to be a blue collar millionaire, but my dad wasn't a very handy person. I didn't know that many people that were even in the blue collar industry at all, to be honest with you. But I still wanted to own a business, and I see it. That you hear it from Mike Rowe speaking with Congress. There is opportunity there, right? How does someone go from no experience at all to creating even a small blue collar business? Is there anything that you would advise them to do?
Yep. So I would get in home services, plumbing, maybe not air conditioning, plumbing, painting, roofing. And then I would find a semi-retired individual that's kind of getting ready to retire, but maybe was in it his whole life. I would hire him on, and I would have him start showing me the ropes. And I'd start small, replacing a toilet, snaking drains, whatever it is, and just start building that knowledge base up. And I'd get into one, go all in on that one industry.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome, man. And obviously, I know a lot of it's Dirt University, but what about books, brother? Are you reading any books? Is there any books that people should be reading that'll help them as a business owner?
I've got tons of books. I'm huge on books. I've been reading books for a decade. The one I like, I want to say it's How to Buy Your Time Back. I can't remember the author. How to Buy Your Time Back is really, really good. It kind of teaches you about hiring for your company. You think as a business owner, you need to start hire the low level data entry guys. But as you get to a certain point, you got to change your perspective on hiring and start hiring to free up your time. The higher level things that you do, because then you frees up your time to actually double down and grow the business. So that's a really good one. I like Gary Vaynerchuk's books. That was a big motivator for me. What was that book? Man, his first one that went real big, kind of basically about social media and putting yourself out there and not being afraid to post. And that's when I decided to go all in on LinkedIn because so I applied the same thing to the email marketing as I did to LinkedIn. And I've got like over 33,000 followers, which on LinkedIn is pretty good. And that's drummed up a ton of business for me. But basically, once I set up that routine with my email marketing campaign to add 5 emails every day. And then when I got on LinkedIn 10, 15 years ago, I decided I would add 5 connections every day before my head hit the pillow. and that were only industry specific. So not just insurance sales guys or whatever. They had to be in excavation, civil construction, industry specific to my business. And I added 5 every single day. And 10 years later, I got 30,000, and I make a post and I get 10 jobs from it, you know?
That's awesome, brother. You're killing it, man. I'm so impressed. I'm so proud of you. You know, if someone wanted to reach you, if someone wanted to stay in contact with you, you know, how would they?
Yeah, definitely on my LinkedIn Messenger or email affordablesitemodel@gmail.com. Our website's affordablesitemodel.com. Pretty much we got contact forms on there. I check all of that every day. I'm big on communication, and yeah.
Man, you came in with so much good knowledge bombs, brother. You know, any final words of advice for aspiring business owners?
Yeah, don't give up. Just don't give up, and don't, it is hard to go through a failure and feel like I'm going to try this next thing. I'm going to try this next thing. And you don't always see the lessons in real time. Sometimes you see them years later, but just don't give up and go in on your strengths. Go start with something you're good at and go all in on that.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much for being on the Must Be Nice show.